Right, when I left you last, I had just run a 15:26 park run, completely flat out and gassed out my arse. I'd also just done Great South Run, and to be honest, I hadn't done it really the way I wanted to do it. Wasn't able to do it justice, but I was able to help my mate to a sub 60. A few weeks down the line, where am I at now and what have I achieved? Let's have a little chat about that. Nice one. So since then, I've been slowly building up. I was in about 60 miles and I've been slowly building that up to about 65, 70 a week. I was almost in full sessions before and I was slowly building those up back to complete fitness. It took about 3 weeks to do that. I didn't want to rush into anything. I'd kept my midweeks exactly the same, similar volume, about 50 minutes for a midweek run and then 70 minutes for a long run. I was getting enough from increasing my sessions, and as I said before, consistency was going to be the key. Bike had been a massive staple still, hitting about 3 to 3.5 hours a week on the bike, plus of course my 3 S&C sessions and yoga. I've been trying to lean down because honestly I wasn't really racing weight, not miles off, not quite where I wanted to be. I took the advice of big man Adam Ruddy, who told me that I needed to increase my protein. He took a look at my diet. I was hitting around 120 grams a day, but he wanted to get me more 150, maybe even 200. That was kind of the A goal. He showed me some tips which I made into a video, which you can check out up here. And you know what? I think it really worked. It helped me maintain muscle whilst I was leaning down. Also, feeling like I'm recovering quite quickly. It wasn't that my protein was bad, so my protein could be better. It's all about those little gains. Definitely feeling fitter week on week. Sessions were getting that little bit faster and I was lasting way longer. Lol. And I was staying stronger, much better towards the end. I didn't really have that complete death feeling that I was having before. Mileage was now kind of in that 65 to 70 range. Again, that 5 to 10 miles was all coming from session quality, and that was fantastic. A few weeks had passed, about 5, and you know what? I hadn't raced, and it was time, now that I was fit, to get back in that racing mode, especially as Brighton 10K, a nice decent race, was coming up. So what did I do? I hit a hard park run.
What is this, amateur hour?
Not a massive advocate for running hard park runs every week, but I am an advocate of using it as kind of a practice race if you haven't done one in a while. Southampton park run it was again. It was going to be a fantastic chance to compare myself to that 15:26 I ran before. So let's see how far I progressed. I was incredibly lucky that my good man Sean Hogan turned up as well. He is an absolute animal. And you know what? He went off very, very hard. He flew off at that start line. I could tell it was going to be a little bit sharp for me. He was my hair and it gave me someone I could chase down. If he hadn't been there, it would have been a lot more of a difficult day. I kept holding back that little bit until 3K. Course ramped up until there, as in hill-wise, and I needed to hold a little bit back, because the last 2Ks are nice downhill and I didn't want to be completely full of lactic. I was absolutely shocked when I'd hit that 3K mark in 9 minutes flat. That gave me 6 minutes and 26 seconds to run faster than the time before. Easy, I kid. I kept pushing on, and you know what? I celebrated as I went over that finish line. First time I'm celebrating the park run, especially weird when you come second, but you know what? I never thought I'd be back under 15 minutes in 2022 as I clocked through the line in 14:56. Yeah, I came second, but I came second to that man Sean, who ran 14:47 and smashed the Southampton parkrun record. If you have a look at those names on that list of all-time park runners, you've got some absolute class athletes, including Mohammed, Alex Chewton, both worn GB vests. Nothing to be sniffed at. As I said, it was the week out from Brighton 10K. Brighton 10K had been there as another opportunity to get a race under my belt as we head towards something bigger in the future. I didn't really taper into it, not at all. Didn't drop a session and just kind of steady ran the few days leading up to it to hopefully freshen up the legs a bit. Wasn't totally sure what fitness was going to be. I didn't really have any expectations of time, but luckily, for me at least, unfortunately my mate had to drop out, but it was a chance to wear a Hampshire vest, which had been a goal since 2018, when I first competed in the Hampshire Champs cross country. Still want to do it in the cross country, but it was a big tick in the goal box, as you know what, you can't ever complain at running in a county vest. The race itself was in the shape of an old-fashioned hockey stick. The wind was in this direction, so you had a little bit at the start and he had a lot in that second half as you turned around and came back. We were along the seafront, so there was nowhere to hide, and every bit of that wind was hitting you right in the face. As we set off, I tried to hold back and kept it kind of more of like a tempo-y feeling, as 3 lads completely shot off the front and I just had to let them go. And in my mind, I knew I could easily blow off in the second half, considering I wasn't super trained and super conditioned yet. I was in a solid pack that had formed, and as we headed in through that first 3K, I decided to hit the front of it, take the lead. I was feeling good, and my mates mates were behind me and I wanted to at least keep the race honest for them so they could get a decent time. I could tell I was catching one of the 3 lads in front of me who dropped off, which gave me something to chase. And the other 2 lads, we weren't really getting any further behind, but we definitely weren't getting any closer. I kept thinking about my 80% rule. The race doesn't start until you've hit that 80%. The mental halfway in a 10K, for me, that's 8K. I hit that first 5K in the turnaround in 3rd place and through in about 15:10. At this point though, the 2 leaders were starting to slowly come back to me, and I was starting to believe. Only a little bit, but I could sense some blood. We started to kick up a little incline relative to Brighton, which is where I started to make my first move on fellow Sky athlete Scott Cousins, top lad. He'd been completely left behind by his Essex teammate Gus, who was marching away a bit at this point. I caught Scott up at I think it was about 7K, and I'm now at this point I'm definitely building confidence. 8K though, Will, stay calm. Gus's lead on me at this point though, it had halved. It was now only about 40-50 meters, and I was feeling like I was closing in on him. I was able to sneak up behind him, and being the midget that I am, was able to take a little bit of a windbreak off him. There aren't many advantages in life for being small. At least he can reach the things at the top of the shelf. I overtook him when I remembered to be the dying embers of the 9th K. What I definitely had was the lead as we swung back in to that final 800 meters straight. This was my time in my mind. I had to remember back to those sessions I'd banked in the past where I had been thrashing myself and had a final hard 1K to go. I'd survived them in training. I could survive it now. Legs full of lactic, I looked up and saw a hop about midway between me and the finish. I used that as a marker to push off from and try to explode as hard as I could. I didn't look back and I kept just trying to ramp up the pace, imagining that Gus was right on my shoulder. That final K, I actually ramped up and ran a 2:52. For a guy who traditionally doesn't really have a kick and has to kick at about 3 miles out in a 5K race, I was absolutely buzzing. I broke the tape in first as well, and I hadn't done that since about 2019, and by God, it felt really good. I was also buzzed to help my Hampshire teammates to claim 2nd place in the men's race and 2nd place in the mixed competition. It makes me properly proud to have been able to do that, and also excited to see what I can do in a few weeks' time where I'm not tapered and I've got a little bit more consistency. All in all, fantastic day, and things are looking up. So what have we got next up? Next up, we've got the Sealy 10K. That's going to be over in Belfast. Doesn't look particularly quick, but it most certainly looks stacked. It is normally won in about 30-20 loath, but when you look at the guys who have run that, there's some international runners. It's definitely targeted as one of the kind of more traditional races in Belfast. Really looking forward to getting involved in that one, and it's going to be my final race before we build up the Battersea 5 miler. That's going to be the one. That's my last hurrah for 2023. Hoping to be as close to that 24 flat as possible. My coach, he's calling out 23 something. We'll see. I'm not going to put that pressure on me. But if I can get down to sub 24:10, that would be absolutely mind-blowing. Honestly, looking back a few months ago when I ran 25:53, I never thought I'd be in this shape again. Just shows all that bike work, all that gym, totally worth it. And you know what? I'd do it again. Horrible at the time, but I'm thanking myself now. That's just been a little bit of a catch up of what I've been doing and where I'm at right now. If you have liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe. I've got lots of running content on here, little bits of catch ups like this. Leave a comment down below, subscribe. Otherwise, I've been the Learning Runner. I'll catch you in the next one.